Most players hit the gym thinking more weight equals more power, but that's not always the truth. The right training can make you faster, stronger, and more explosive. But the wrong training can actually hurt your game. Let's break down the biggest do's and don'ts for baseball players in the gym. And if you have no idea who I am, my name is Evan Mendoza, and I've played 7 years of professional baseball between the St. Louis Cardinals and San Diego Padres. I also spent 3 years at the D1 level at NC State University, and I was also on varsity all 4 years of my high school baseball career. Now I'm creating content just like this for you to be the coach I never had. Now, in this video, let's talk about what actually works in the gym. So, first and foremost, the do's and don'ts of training for baseball. So, number one, do train for explosiveness, not just overall strength. So, baseball is a power sport, and we can't really think of ourselves as like a Ford F350. We want to be really thinking of ourselves as a Ferrari, right? We need to make sure that we're explosive in our quick twitch movements, like our rotational movements, like throwing, pitching, obviously first step quickness, and obviously the rotational power that comes along with hitting. So not just a strength sport, all right? So making sure that we use plyometrics, sled sprints, for example, is gonna overall help your speed and agility. Med ball throws for rotational strength, and also sometimes Olympic lifts will make sense. Not always, but obviously you don't want to necessarily be doing hand cleans or anything like that that isn't super baseball related. Now, the biggest don't in that subcategory is training like a power lifter or a bodybuilder, and that's the biggest don't. It's something that I honestly did during my professional career. I thought I, had things figured out, and I went to this specific gym for this specific trainer, and I definitely got stronger. That was the coolest thing. I got to see my before, I got to see my after pictures, and I definitely got stronger. My deadlift went up, my squat went up, my bench press went up. But when the season came around, that overall pure strength didn't translate over to the ball field as a baseball player. So avoid those slow grinding reps. Think like deadlift, squat that are going to ultimately just make you a little bit more stiff and not necessarily as mobile as a baseball player. So think about like a speed and high intent with some of those movements. And yes, there is a place to do like a little bit of an A block and a B block, one for strength, one for speed, things like that. But if you're not developing out a sport-specific training program, that's where I feel like a lot of high school baseball players get it wrong. So another do is prioritize mobility and flexibility. So baseball obviously requires a full range of motion, especially for throwing. Obviously pitching, this is a very common subject, but making sure that we have mobility in our hips, ankles, shoulder, thoracic spine, also referred to as T-spine. These are all ideas of making sure that we're taken care of. These are all ideas that we want to make sure that we're taken care of in our prep work. So obviously make sure that we're adding some type of dynamic stretching, resistance band work, and mobility drills before training. That's all going to help you in the overall lifts that we're doing in the gym. Do not, and this is a big don't skip your warm-ups or any type of recovery work. And this is something that was really related to us in pro ball. You don't want to only just stretch beforehand, but you also want to stretch after the fact of lifting, right? Making sure that we do some sort of like rollout or stretching. This is going to be the biggest area, probably improvement for a lot of you high school baseball players. Typically on the lift that you have in front of you, whether it's a piece of paper or on an app, this is an area that ultimately you see that last lift and then you think you're done, when in reality you should do an extra 5 minutes of maybe stretching or a post stretch for that post lift. All right, moving on. Do train sprint and agility work. All right, so fast players get recruited, and fast players are referred to as athletes at the end of the day. So speed is a game changer. So include some like resistance, sled sprints, maybe sled pushes, agility ladders, explosive jumps. Obviously, you can use sprinting programs and things like that. And this is going to put you in a really good position to ultimately become the best athlete you can possibly be. Don't rely on just long distance running. And this is exactly what I did. And one of the biggest mistakes that I was honestly just training my slow twitch muscles time and time and time again. This is not a good way to train as a baseball player, unless you're a pitcher, maybe working on stamina. But for the most part, for the majority of high school baseball players, you really should be focusing more on short sprints, since that's what our game demands us of. So avoid just like long distance jogging for miles on miles, right? That doesn't develop true speed. It doesn't ignite our fast twitch muscles. If anything, we kind of are always in this coasting stage. So replace those distance running with sprint intervals, maybe a lateral quickness drill, is something that basically makes you on the balls of your feet and in a quicker pace more than anything. And also you can do some like base stealing mechanics, right? Making sure that we are always focusing on first step quickness and areas of our game like that. If you want a proven speed and agility sprinting program, guys, go down below in the description. There's my sprinting program that I teach all of my students within my Mendoza Baseball Academy down below in the description waiting for you. All right, another do, strengthen rotational power and core stability, guys. Baseball is a rotational game, obviously, and we need to make sure that we're training this way to make sure that we have the strength translate over to the field. So throwing and hitting are rotational movements, obviously, and a strong core equals more power. So obviously the quicker we're able to rotate, the faster our body is able to move, the more efficient hopefully our swing and throws will ultimately also become. So include like medicine ball slams, medicine ball pushes or rotations. These are all areas that I think are going to be great. Also rotational cable exercises that really develop good core. These are all areas that I would 100% dive more into if you don't have a well-structured program. Also, don't neglect lateral and rotational training, guys. Obviously, baseball isn't just a forward and backward sport. Think like, track and field. We have to make sure that we have that lateral quickness as well. So you need to have that side-to-side explosiveness. So something that we did always at NC State were basically shuttles. So think 25 yards apart. We basically go back and forth, but we want to make sure that we're cutting, because when we're cutting, that's going to be ultimately when we're able to really develop that first step quickness, which is huge in the game of baseball, especially on defense. But yeah, do some like lateral lunges, obviously, some crossover, step drills, and rotational plyometrics, just with an athletic base, guys. We don't want to be doing anything where we're super narrow in the gym. We also don't want to do stuff when we're super wide in the gym. Think deadlift where we're super, super wide, because how many times are we actually that wide in the game of baseball? It's not very often, right? So making sure that we're training in a sports-specific manner is something that I would definitely recommend doing. Now, last but not least, this is an area of, it's gonna hurt my heart a little bit, but you do wanna train your overall grip strength and forearm endurance, guys. Strong grip equals more bat speed, and the St. Louis Cardinals and San Diego Padres, they both told me this as far as the strength department. The harder anyone's able to squeeze, we would usually do grip test. The harder someone was able to squeeze, technically, the faster they were more capable of swinging a bat, and also the faster they were able to grip, or sorry, not grip, but the harder they were able to grip a baseball as a pitcher, and the faster they would typically throw. They saw a correlation in that, so it is very important to make sure that we're including things like farmer carries at the end of our workout to make sure that we're really developing good forearms, wrist curls, bat handle grip exercises. So basically just making sure that we're even like rice buckets. I don't know if anyone is familiar, but a rice bucket, literally just go in there in like a painter's bucket, kind of like the ones that hold baseballs in the batting cages. Fill that with rice and then just basically dig in there. You would be surprised on how good of a workout that is for your forearms. So don't overdo heavy arm exercises, guys. Overloading your arms with too many curls or maybe too many tricep extensions is gonna cause too much elbow stress. And this is a huge area that I find that a lot of high school baseball players don't even know what they're doing in the gym, which ultimately leads to a lot of injuries. So focus on more shoulder stability and band work, because this is going to be what we need in the game of baseball. And then also that controlled strengthening exercises, guys. These are the areas that I think are way more important than just having big biceps, obviously. Those are some areas, and obviously with the reason why I think that was a little bit of a sensitive topic, but it is really important to have good strength in your forearms and grip strength. But I don't know how many of you guys know, but I actually broke my left wrist, when I was in AAA. I was trying to catch a fly ball in foul territory, and I ran into the wall and just twisted up my wrist, broke it. 3 months later, I re-broke it on the grip test, because the Cardinals strength coaches basically told me to squeeze as hard as I could, and I did exactly that. So on the grip test, I re-broke it, had to go through rehab once again. Obviously, that was not fun, but obviously, whenever you're taken away from the game, that's never fun. I don't want you guys to ever overdo it in the gym whatsoever, and that's why I'm making this video, is because I don't want you guys to have any type of injury in the game. And these are the areas that I feel like a lot of people make mistakes, especially a lot of high school baseball players, once they start to enter into the gym. So the gym should be making you faster and more explosive and more durable as a baseball player throughout your developmental journey. So it's not just about getting bigger and stronger like a bodybuilder or an Olympic lifter, right? So train with intent, move well, and play better, guys. So check out the next video on the screen if you want more ways to level up your training.